we'd expect to see earth, fire, and air concerns go through the roof. Now, we don't have that right now. In fact, air is down a fair bit. Earth is up. I'm expecting that a lot of that dream content is slop over from concerns about the Gulf. And although curiously, water is unmoved, so it may or may not be. And then of course, fire unmoved also. So we'll watch those as the summer develops. And if you guys ever want to put up with my nonsense again, then I'll come back and talk about it.
Well, that is fascinating.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's fascinating. I mean, it
is a fascinating concept to use. There's all kinds of dreams. There's meaningless things. There's body self-healing kind of dreams. There's lucid dreams, and also the ones that just permeate the brain from what's happening right now, and the fears that engenders, and people don't, get into a really cool space just before going to bed, so that all comes out.
Yeah, most people don't do that. You're right. Most people go to sleep. Sleep comes up, knocks them on the head, and they're gone. And they don't make any effort. They don't generally use their dreams to their full potential, because dream work is some of the most important stuff you do, because it's what keeps you sane in this world, which is distinctly unsane.
That's right.
So, it is fascinating to me, because it is as difficult. I think your project is going to be as difficult to analyze as Cliff's.
Yes and no. I mean, if this works, the whole continuum, something that being exposed to Cliff's work has underscored to me many times over, is that prophecy is a continuum. At a very gross level, you'll get the odd practitioner staring into a pot of oil, special scrying oil. Get yours today, and so you'll come up with somebody like Nostradamus. The problem with Nostradamus is he was so worried about being killed by the people he was issuing prophecies about that he encoded everything in these weird quatrains that people are still arguing, did this mean this or did that mean that? Then, as you get a little bit closer in, say 18 months out, at 18 months, Cliff's got good enough resolution with the software that we can, pick out things like, for example, we have a large gap in the data. And the gap in the data begins this fall. We still have some activity on the Internet in March of next year, but the number of data points is substantially less. And so if you want something to worry about, it's what happened to all those Internet users. Well, the answer I don't want to speculate about, because it involves lots of body parts, but that's the kind of inference that seems to be there in the data. How one prepares for that becomes an entirely different and even more difficult proposition. Once you understand that there are obvious ways to try to tell the future. Recorded Future is recordedfuture.com is an operation that is using some net analytics. It's not as linguistically driven as what Cliff's does. It's more like date-driven by indexed events off Google and other sources. But they do some very good work too. And so we're evolving technologies that I don't know if you ever worked in a newsroom, but one of the cool things about a newsroom is you always had a tickler file where when a big story was going to occur, like sentencing of some convicted murderer, his sentencing will be 3 weeks from next Tuesday. So you drop that in your future events. And so there's a lot of good work being done now by groups like, well, I won't go into all the names, but there are a number of people that are doing this work either at the augmented reality level or purely at the huge putting together what the global schedule of events ought to look like on particular days, and then projecting the outcomes based on underlying trends. News analytics has always fascinated me, which is why I enjoyed being a news director for so many years. The difficulty is that, number one, a lot of that information is not readily available to the public. Number two, even when it is made readily available to the public, like with Cliff's reports, people are not inclined to do anything about it. In Peoplenomics last week, I started writing about the Diaspora Handbook, because very clearly in the linguistics, by this fall, we will have millions of people being uprooted and moving about the country. You remember the
yes.
Southwest Airlines, you're now free to move about the country. Well, we're coming to that period in real contemporary events. And part and parcel to that, Elaine and I have decided to put our 28.82 acres, more or less, complete operating goat ranch with tractor, farm pickup, shop equipment, lathes and welding gear and the house, the septic, the well, the garden, the whole shooting match, all goats included, and the caps are negotiable. We will leave everything, the infrastructure and so forth. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to move, but we're open to that possibility if that's what universe wants to happen. And you see, part of going with change is being willing to accept if universe wants George to move, then universe will provide buyer. If George is willing to move, but universe does not provide buyer, then that means it's intended that I ride out November in this area. So it's kind of curious. It's almost a ridiculous level of personal detachment, but on the other hand, it isn't really, because if I could move any place in the country today, it would probably be near Sun River, Oregon, a small airport, close enough we could hop up to Seattle and back on a single tank of fuel in a Cessna 172. That's nice. It's close enough so the kids could actually ride down on horseback if the stuff ever hit the fan from the Seattle area down to Sun River. Making it all the way across the country to the family survival platform in Texas, I'm not sure. That's a little much. I don't know if you'd want to ride a horse or walk from Seattle all the way to Texas in November.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll have some of our
airport.
I'm sorry.
What is that airport in that area the most compelling reason to have it, or do you find other?
No, there's other reasons why Southern Oregon is nice, but there's also a compelling number of reasons why I could certainly be persuaded to look at something in Washington or Idaho too. Oregon is nice, doesn't have a sales tax. Oregon is bad because the corporate taxes are higher. They are rabid about government supervision of just about anything you do on your property, whereas Texas is a much more free state in sense that if you're a farmer or a goat rancher in my case, and you want to put in your own septic system, you just go dig a hole and build it. Or if you want to do your own wiring, you just do your own wiring. And if your house burns down, it's like, oh, well, didn't do that right.
Well,
that's the way it should be.
We definitely vote for you moving to Washington State, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, and Cliff and I are, my wife and I will be up in the Seattle area over July 19 through 28 for business meetings. Cliff and I are actually doing a video.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of cool because Cliff has built an UMI.
Well, George, baby, tell us after this break.
Oh, darn, we'll be back. Hurry up. Let's get through it.
We'll be back.
They're ordinary. Come on, get on with it.
All right.
beyondtheordinary.net. If you gotta be on something beyond the ordinary.
And here we are with George and he doesn't want us to waste time, so it's beyond the ordinary.
Say it faster.
Beyond the ordinary.
Okay, now we have a test for you on those commercials you just heard. We're going to... No, we're just kidding about it. The reason that we put the house on the market, besides wanting to be closer to the kids, is that if the stuff really hits the fan in November, the odds are pretty good we're only going to have one or two of our kids down here at the ranch with us, because everybody else works and they're, they think, George is a nice fellow and all, and kind of an interesting, if not verging on strange fellow, but got a real job and own a real company and can't go there just because George is nuts. So part of the reason, if we are within a tank of gas, or a tank of gas and a couple of lawnmower cans of Seattle, then we can probably keep our family unit together, although it was dysfunctional anyway. So why we want to put that back together. But, we all mellow out with age, and hopefully I'll have developed enough rapid onset Alzheimer's by that point from all the oil. The kids won't recognize me.
Well, Washington is better.
All the time. What?
Washington is better. Southern Oregon is too close to California.
Well, like I was explaining to you, Texas has this marvelous respect for rural property where, granted, we're not raising the sexiest crops in the world, trees and goats, but, it's really nice out here. We enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not that free here.
Yeah. I mean, down here, if I want to do wiring or I want to throw a building up, or if I want to, like I just did an addition onto my office that added, another 500 square feet. You know how much planning went into it?
You drew it on paper and asked Elaine's suggestions, and you did.
No, I had a couple of guys come over who are local craftsmen and do a lot of different ranch and remodel kinds of things. And I said, hey, Ken, why don't we go out this way about 10 feet and over this way about 25 feet? And he said, okay, here, we'll put this post in here. And then they set the 4x4s, treated 4x4s set in concrete, which is kind of the traditional